Hi, and welcome to the BCRC show, the show that advocates that BC resources make BC jobs. My name is Clint Chappell. I am the media lead. Before we get started here, I just want to thank all the frontline workers who are currently leading the battle against the terrible COVID-19 virus. You guys are doing an awesome job. Keep up the great work. We love all you guys. Thank you very much. And another thing here too is, guys, obviously the contest that we've had here is going to be closed now, and at the end of the show we're going to announce the winner of a brand new BCRC hoodie. So looking forward to give that away. I know our guest probably wants one of those hoodies himself. So now, saying all that, I'm going to introduce the CEO of Allnorth, Mr. Darby Kreitz. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing very well, thanks very much.
Awesome. Well, Darby, I've known you here a little bit for a little while, so we're not going to exchange too many pleasantries. Let's just get into this. Let's get started. So how did Allnorth form? What was the process behind that? And if you could tell me a little backstory about it.
Well, sure, excited. I moved to Prince George early 90s. I was very fortunate to have an aunt and uncle, Oscar and Lynn Fair, that were in the community. I have been in the community for a long time. I started work about an hour after arriving to Prince George. Another very, very positive piece of that community is the opportunity for employment for what was a younger guy. So started working at Allnorth in 1992. Worked there and had great mentorship from the then owner, Michael Tachek. In 1995, branched out with Mike to start Allnorth Consultants, 100% focused on the forest sector. Timing is everything. Had the opportunity to be able to work with the BC Forest Practices Code that required bridges and roads in the forest industry to be engineered. Really was foundational and fundamental at the start of our business. So really very fortunate to have that environment and the forest being a very strong piece of the BC economy. Perhaps stronger at different times. That time was strong. That's how we started. So a younger version of me, getting going, and had lots of support along the way. But certainly would not have done that in my mind in a community other than Prince George.
Well, that's awesome. So the company really has grown here. It sounds like you guys are kind of all over the place right now. Where are your locations? How many employees roughly do you guys have?
Sure. You know what? Very fortunate. This is our 25th year in business. So really excited about that. We've got 13 offices now. We are coast to coast in Canada, from Nanaimo in the southern part, BC, Terrace in the northern part of BC, off to St. John's, Newfoundland, and south to Atlanta, Georgia, and kind of all places in between. We've got about 500 people, and certainly the COVID, as we talked at the start, has had some impact, but boy, we feel pretty good with where we reside. So we'd be sub 500, but we certainly have the 13 offices as described.
So what type of projects are you guys mostly involved with? I know you guys are a pretty diverse company. You dabble in mining and pulp and paper and stuff like that, but like, what type of projects are you really involved with?
I think, I guess what I would say is ultimately most things lead back to the resource sector. And so, it'd be a decade ago or so that we kind of focused on 4 sectors. We were working in the pulp and paper sector, and that we extend that into solid wood. We work in the mining sector. We work in the oil and gas sector, and we work in the infrastructure sector. Infrastructure would generally relate to more public related work. And today we're unbelievably close to being 25% of our business in each of those sectors. That wasn't always the case, of course, and it ebbs and flows, of course, but the whole point of being that is to have some diversity in what we offer.
Awesome. So guys, if you guys have any questions for the CEO of Allnorth, it's not very often you get a chance to ask somebody some direct questions of this stature. So please leave your comments and questions in the comment section below. If this is your first time joining us here on the BCRC show, thank you for being here. We're thrilled and honored to have you watching. I'm going to plug a couple things here, Darby. If you guys didn't hear the big announcement that I made last night, we're going to be doing blogs. So all the blogs are going to go up on the bcrc.ca. We're really excited about that. It's going to be a cool venue to have some of our directors have an open forum to be able to talk to you about resources and the resource community. Also, I'm very excited. I don't know how much I can really pump on this. We are doing a podcast. It's something that I have wanted to do for a very, very long time for different reasons, but I think this is the perfect avenue for the BCRC to go down. It's going to give us a huge open forum. We're going to be able to talk to different people, get a whole bunch of different avenues of communication going on the podcast. So I'm very excited about that. And the last couple things here, if you're not following us on Twitter, please follow us on Twitter. The tag is at BC_resources. Looking forward to getting more people on there, and also on Instagram at the BCRC. Get us on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook, obviously. YouTube's really important because if we get to 100 subscribers, we get our own YouTube channel. So we're looking forward to that. So thank you, Darby, for letting me plug those. And now we're going to get back to some of the questions here. I guess I kind of heard through the grapevine that you might be dabbling into some other sort of pulp mill sort of stuff here. So with a company called Leaf Pulp, can you mind kind of explaining that a little bit?
Yeah, no problem at all. We're real excited about it. It would be probably 3 to 4 years ago that we got involved with a technology provider, and we've been designing pulp mills effectively through the U.S. and into Europe as well. That are using waste residue from various different crops, and they vary from bagasse, from sugarcane to wheat straw to sorghum, to quite a number of different, and it is waste products that are going into it. So, I think certainly, to the BC Resources, and by the way, the coalition, we are a supporter of the coalition as well. So I think certainly a good plug, and we absolutely are supporting what's going on there. As it relates to Red Leaf, we developed this company. We have a license, and it's a territorial license. It's in the province of Saskatchewan, so not in BC. However, the resources to be able to design and go through the development phase and certainly into construction will almost 100% come from British Columbia. Again, what we're trying to do is not be outside of the pulp world, but actually inside and inclusive. We're darned excited to be able to use a different product, to have fiber to put into pulp. And the pulp, generally from a downstream perspective for us, is intended for very green applications, clamshells for the food, single-use food cartons, the straws that we drink, and packaging that is arriving certainly on my front door more often than it used to. Let's put it that way. And so I think to that end, it's our intention to be a developer for a pulp mill. Capital costs would be somewhere in the 300 million range, so it's not unsubstantial. And there's going to take a lot of effort to get it across the line. So really excited about it. Effectively using the resource of Allnorth on the engineering side to build out an operating entity.
No, okay, so there's a lot to take in there. This is it's very innovative, and it sounds like you guys are really changing the game, or attempting to change the game for pulp mills here. So when you're saying all this, the project is going to be outside of British Columbia, but as the BC Resources Coalition, we're involved in all resources, and other resources also include labor. It's not just coal, or sorry, it's not just any natural resources. It's also labor. So the project itself, I'm guessing you're going to be using lots of BC labor.
Yeah, I think certainly we have a real good team of pulp and paper folks that are in our Prince George office, in our Nanaimo office, in our Vancouver office, that we're going to be deploying all of that labor to help support this project. And again, this isn't a supplement or a and/or statement to the pulp and paper clients that we work on that use wood as their fiber. It's actually it's in support of them. So it's a much smaller facility than the ones that I've grown accustomed to in Prince George and Quesnel and Mackenzie. But again, it's a supplement to what they're doing.
That's awesome. Do you ever see any possibility of this this sort of structure be able to move over to BC in the future once you kind of perfected it?
Yeah, effectively, where we are right now is we have a technology license that's got an area to it. Know the people that have the license in British Columbia in particular. We've worked for them, and we would continue to work for them. And again, trying to, it's a technology that honestly it can use banana peels, all kinds of different products. One of which was one of the products that's pretty strong is the hemp industry, right? And so there is an absolute connection there.
So what you're pretty much saying though too is it's really environmentally more friendly than what the average pulp mill is as well.
Yeah, I think, well, it's got different qualities to it, right? And I think the intention is to have zero effluent, and so that's a good piece of it. There's certainly some technology that is it's improved, I guess I would say. So it's a green technology.
Well, that's really exciting stuff, Darby. I can't wait to hear more about that in the future. That's a game changer for sure. And that's amazing stuff that you guys are getting involved with. So a couple more plugs, guys. Again, please, if this is your first time visiting us here on the BCRC show, we're a show that advocates and a coalition that advocates that BC resources should make BC jobs. So that's what we're all about. And visit us on Twitter at BC_resources and on Instagram at the BCRC. So transitioning back into BC, BC relies so heavily on the forest industry. We're almost needing some sort of diversification from there. I'd imagine you kind of agree with that.
No question. Yeah, I think, one thing I'm really proud of, coming from Prince George is the ability for that community in particular, and certainly all of Northern British Columbia, to talk specifically Prince George, because that's, my mindset of living there. Really proud of the manner in which that community does transition. As I say, we started this business in 1995, 100% based on the, in the forest sector, that which has been fantastic. But of course, once you have people that are reliant on you, you really learn that, you got to have some diversity and to ensure that there's some sustainability in their employ. And so I've seen some, massive changes actually over that period from, being, like I say, 100% in the forest industry to the mining industry that, encompasses the northern part of the province, the oil and gas industry that encompasses the province. So, really it's important, I think, to have multiple things that can make one successful. And I think that's kept Prince George really running.
Yeah, so it's really refreshing. Obviously, I know you're going to agree with this statement, but it's refreshing to hear of these multi-billion-dollar projects coming to British Columbia and specifically the Prince George area. We are a BC group, but right now we're honed in on the Prince George area because all these projects are being announced here. That must be really refreshing to hear that they're out of the forest industry. That's going to help us diversify our economy.
Yeah, absolutely. I've spent the last couple of weeks in Prince George, and it's so nice to come. I would call it home, right? And the opportunity for those projects, they're so much bigger than just the capital cost of the project. The impact on the community, and that's everything from hoteliers to eating to some of the social events that occur in the community. I think they are always better and improved when the economy is flourishing. So I'm real excited about them, is the answer to your question.
Well, you're absolutely right though, Darby. Like these projects are going to create, as I've said in other interviews, that when people have asked me, the cab drivers are going to have more people in their cars, the hotels are going to have more people in them, the Cougars are going to have more people in the stands. It really snowballs from these projects, and the limitless possibilities occur because of them. The house values are going to go up, population is going to go up, and infrastructure, like you name it. Prince George has the opportunity to become a hub, and British Columbia has an opportunity to prove that we're open for business.
Yeah, no question. Totally agree. There's significant downstream impacts, and I've seen it certainly on a smaller scale in some of the communities all over Western Canada, frankly. And so, wouldn't expect anything different for this go around.
Yeah, I would imagine with your experience, you've seen this more than once with a smaller community. I'd call Prince George a medium-sized community to have a project like this to go to to even up to a couple 100,000 people. It wouldn't be your first time seeing that.
That's correct. Yeah, you bet.
Yeah. Especially with like the West Coast Oil Fins project in BC Hampton. Do you guys have any involvement? Obviously, I kind of know the answer to this, but with the West Coast Oil Fins project?
Yeah, we're sure excited, to be involved. We're certainly working with Ken and his team, looking at some of the front end work. We've also been asked to be a part of a consortium of Prince George-based companies. Obviously, you are one of them at Miltron, and so again, it's really refreshing to work with a group of colleagues that are able to really get after and execute a large project like that. We have to be mindful of the size of the project. We can't be thinking that we can take it all down, but I tell you, I'm always surprised, when you go around to projects and you look across the table at a boardroom, and it doesn't need to be in local to Prince George, and there's a Prince George contractor that's sitting across from you. That's the resourcefulness of the group in Prince George. So yeah, we're involved in the West Coast Oil Fins project. Happy to be so. Looking forward to that project evolving, and certainly supportive of it from the standpoint of the economic spinoff that it'll provide, and selfishly, the employment that it'll provide, our team in Prince George, and yeah, really excited.
Yeah, we're honored to be a part of that consortium that you're talking about, and there's nothing. There's as I said before, the sky's the limit when it comes to these projects coming to Prince George or to British Columbia. It's a really big opportunity to right now, unfortunately, the forestry industry is struggling, and Miltron is a big part of the forestry industry, and it's struggling right now. It'd be awesome to have another avenue for income when the forest industry struggles. You can divert your attention to the West Coast Oil Fins project or the BC Hemp. I mean, not just to rely on a one-trick pony, to the best way I can put it. You're going to have other streams of income, and that's very exciting to be a part of.
Yeah, I mean, we have responsibility as leaders in our companies to ensure that there's sustainability to the workload that our teams have, and so certainly the diversity has been actually a fundamental underpinning in our business, and the reason why we have the offices that we talked about earlier, the reason why we're in those sectors is our work is incredibly transportable. And as a result, we work, certainly we're working in southern US projects in northern British Columbia. The team is in northern British Columbia, that is, and vice versa. So that diversity is quite paramount to having the ability to continue on the sustainability. I, for one, need to eat every day, and I expect you're the same. And so,
trying to do less of that right now. I'm trying to lose some weight here.
Still have to eat something. I'm not talking about right, but yeah, I think it's important, and so we have to take that seriously, and certainly the diversity of the opportunities for us more local is obviously improved.
Awesome. Okay, guys. Well, I'm running out of questions here to ask, so I'm going to turn to the comments now. Darby, we have a couple questions. This sounds like a younger entrepreneur, maybe just wondering what your biggest challenges are for starting up. I think you can look at that two different ways. One, starting up your own company, and two, starting up a project. Maybe answer both.
Sure. Well, I think the biggest challenge is you've got to find revenue. I think having a bit of a niche to work into is it's easy to talk about, it's easy to write about, but not easy to do. I think our business particularly is incredibly trust-based. We don't have a lot of product that we provide other than a drawing and hopefully intellectual property, and as far as what we're asking. So I think that trust quotient, finding a client that believes in you, and then certainly the next few steps are building a team. And I've been very, very fortunate to have had really good support on a client basis, as well as being able to build a team, right? So the short answer is find revenue, because without it, businesses they struggle.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think another question, I guess, from a again, another younger entrepreneur like myself, is how do you find expanding your business? Like, other than sweat equity, like what other things should we be looking at to try to take our business to the next level?
It's a great question. And I think certainly I've grown from 1 to 500. I'm not sure I have the answer for the question yet, right? I think certainly that stability piece, and what's critical, of course, is in all business, and certainly yours as well, that trust quotient. So doing what you say you'll do, like your mom taught you, pretty important, right? And so I think to that end, just some of the very, very fundamental things, and it, boy, I'll tell you, they write a lot of stuff in textbooks, but just delivering and asking for, can I deliver another project for you? And I think with that, you build that trust quotient, you build a bit of experience. You cannot tackle an elephant on day one. You have to take a smaller piece and start working your way towards the elephant. And yeah, do what you say you'll do is probably the best answer to your question.
Yeah, and a saying that my father has always taught me, and that I've tried to live by, is pound the pavement, pound the concrete. I mean, you hit the road and you knock on doors, and eventually somebody does say yes. And I know that's the way that my father built his company. And I think that's a really good model for anyone listening to this, is to hit the road and try to find the clientele.
Yeah, it's not easy. I readily admit doing cold calls is absolutely not my favorite thing. The thing that's my least favorite thing, though, is having to have a hard conversation with somebody that when you don't have enough work. That's driven me to have that cold call, and certainly know what your client is, know what your market is, know those things, but don't overthink it. Get on the road, as you put it, knock on the door and ask. It's amazing what you get when you ask.
So another question here is, what type of time frame does your Saskatchewan project have?
So we are hoping to be into, so basically you're pushing on 5 bubbles on a development phase. So we're certainly hoping to get through, the regulatory bubble, particularly some of the technology bubble. We obviously have a finance bubble. We're looking to do some land acquisition. So the answer to the question is we're hoping that we're putting our construction people to work in mid 2021. So it's got a fairly short fuse. We think it's about an 18-month build, and then a couple or 3 months of commissioning. So we should be producing product. We're thinking somewhere in the end of 2023. And then hopefully on to the next mill in that area.
Awesome. So I'm just going to plug a couple more things, guys. Please visit us on Twitter at the BC_resources, on Instagram at the BCRC. Hit up our YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. All of it's been really, really successful. I only have a couple more minutes here with Darby, as it's Friday night and we're all wanting to get out of here. But I have just a couple more questions for you, Darby. Do you see any labor shortages with some of the major projects now happening? So, with any of the major projects happening, do you see labor becoming an issue?
Well, to a certain extent, coming through the last couple of months of COVID, I guess the answer is I hope so. Because there's certainly been some challenges that we've all experienced. So certainly push that aside as best we can. I guess the answer has got to be yes to that question, and I think that's going to push us to doing things more efficiently with some innovation. And I think to that end, I guess the short answer is I hope so, which is maybe perhaps a politically incorrect answer, but given the space we've been in the last couple of months, it'll be good to be stretched a little bit.
So I have another question here from Paul. With such a diverse industry portfolio required to serve your client base, how would you suggest companies wanting to expand into a new industry accomplish this?
Well, I think the first part is you have to know your market. You have to have the skills to be able to feed your market. So we have a complicated company in as far as having that many locations, having that many sectors, and then coupled onto it, we have 7 or 8 different disciplines of engineering that we're providing. And so not every one of our offices is an exact replication of them. In fact, we have no offices that are exact replications of other offices. And so the point being is that you have to develop that skill set to be able to satisfy that client. We are much more advanced in the pulp and paper sector, and as far as our offerings and the depth of the skill set than we are in other sectors. The sector of infrastructure is a massive sector. It has a whole bunch of different things. So we are very specific at what we do in the infrastructure sector, as an example, and the locations to which we do it. So the answer to the question is know what your skills are and move into them. I can tell you with the markets, we look a lot better in rising tide markets. If you're going to find a market, try not to find one that's declining. It makes it clearly much more difficult. So in pursuit, look for markets that are rising and make sure you've got the skills to be able to feed into that market.
Awesome. Well, guys, I think I'm going to close out the show here. Darby's been amazing with his time. And obviously everyone watching, we really, really thank you. So I guess I have to announce a winner of a contest here, Darby. You're going to have to hang on before we say our goodbyes. And no, Darby, you are not the winner. The winner, we have one more question maybe from Lisa. Now I'm teasing the contest. What makes more sense in the consulting world, generalistic or specific? That sounds like a very good question.
Yeah, it is a really good question. We've chosen to be more generalistic in our offering than specific. There is, my bet is that there's a lot of management books written on this particular topic. There's probably also a coin that's been tossed on the topic. So I think depending on the size of the market, what it is that you're choosing to do, and to which the diversity you're able to provide it. So, look, the oil and gas industry, as an example, is a very large market as well. You could certainly sit and exist in that market in and of itself. So, sorry to skirt the question, Lisa, but I think it's a dealer's choice, so to speak.
There we go. Okay, now I am closing the questions because we got to get out of here. It's Friday. So the winner of the contest for the BCRC hoodie is Paulo Colio. If I have butchered your name, I am so sorry. I apologize. Again, the winner of the BCRC hoodie is Paulo Colio. Paulo, if you're listening or watching this, please just DM us your size and we'll link up or we'll get a hold of you. So congratulations, Paulo. It's a great way to start the weekend. I don't even have one of those hoodies, so very, very lucky that you got that. So Darby, thank you very much for your time today. We really appreciate you coming on, and you have an open mic anytime you want to come back.
Well, likewise, certainly happy to be a avid supporter of the BCRC. What the coalition is about absolutely aligns with certainly my thought process, but our company's process or thought process as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you for the support, Darby. Really appreciate it. You guys have been generous, and we thank you very, very much for that. So for the CEO of Allnorth, Darby Kreitz, I'm Clint Chappell. You guys have a great Friday. Stay safe out there.